Welcome to our deep dive into productivity and success. We've got a pretty fascinating mix of sources here.
It's everything from practical tips to really delving into the psychology and philosophy behind it all.
We'll be looking at books like What the Most Successful People Do Before Breakfast,
No excuses.
The Willpower Instinct.
Atomic Habits, Tiny Habits, and Essentialism.
I mean, the list goes on. But our mission here, right, is to really pull out the most potent strategies
Absolutely. The ones that our listeners can actually use.
to boost their effectiveness. I mean, who doesn't want to be more effective?
And ultimately help them achieve whatever their goals are.
Okay, so I think a great place to start is with something that pretty much everybody can relate to, and that is morning rituals.
Yeah, both Laura Vanderkam and Brian Tracy, they really emphasize the power of starting your day strong.
Vanderkam specifically, she highlights how successful people they structure their mornings
To include activities that support their careers, their well-being.
and their family connections, which I think is a really important point.
Right. It's not just about squeezing in a workout or frantically checking emails.
It's more about making conscious choices about how you spend those first few hours.
To really set a positive tone for the whole day.
And one thing that I found really interesting is this idea that willpower is a finite resource,
It's true.
and it's actually at its peak in the morning.
Kind of like a muscle, it
Yeah.
gets depleted as the day goes on.
So that's where I think Brian Tracy's emphasis on self-discipline comes in,
Right, because he argues that success really boils down to mastering our natural inclination to take the path of least resistance.
which is so true, right? It's always easier to just do the easy thing.
And so by tackling those tough tasks first thing in the morning, we're essentially leveraging those willpower reserves.
When they're at their strongest.
Precisely.
So instead of, reaching for your phone the moment you wake up
Maybe try confronting that challenging project.
or diving into a skill-building activity.
While your willpower is still fully charged.
Now, Vanderkam, she doesn't just want us to imagine this ideal morning routine. She wants us to make it happen.
And she has a really interesting suggestion, which is keeping a time log.
A time log.
Yeah, to track where those morning hours are actually going.
Yeah.
It can be pretty eye-opening to see the reality of how we're spending our time
I bet.
versus how we think we're spending it.
That's a great point. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about Kelly McGonigal's book, The Willpower Instinct.
Okay.
Now she has a really interesting perspective on willpower,
Right. She doesn't see the lack of willpower as a personal feeling.
which I think is so refreshing.
Instead, she reframes it as a universal human struggle. We all deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, everyone had those moments where their willpower just crumbles. Yeah.
Exactly. And McGonigal, she argues that understanding the mechanics of willpower
Like how it actually works in the brain.
can actually empower us to make more conscious choices.
Oh, that's interesting.
She proposes this really fascinating model of the brain's three-part willpower system.
The I will, the I won't, and the I want.
Exactly. It's kind of like this internal battle that's constantly playing out in our minds.
And the thing is, it's not always a fair fight.
Oh, definitely not. McGonigal, she connects this model to our body's stress response.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because she shows how, under pressure, our brains can literally hijack our willpower, leading us to make those impulsive decisions.
Ones that we later regret, right?
So think of it like this. Stress basically disables our I will side, and it leaves us more vulnerable to those I want impulses.
Which explains why we sometimes cave to cravings.
Or procrastinate on important tasks when we're feeling overwhelmed.
Makes sense.
And another thing that McGonigal debunks is this whole idea of rewarding good behavior with indulgences that ultimately sabotage our progress.
Oh, like treating yourself to a big slice of cake after a day of healthy eating.
Exactly, because it kind of perpetuates this cycle of inconsistency, right?
Oh, so instead of rewarding ourselves with actions that contradict our goals, the focus should be on building consistent positive habits.
That's a great point, because speaking of habits, let's dive into James Clear's Atomic Habits and BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits.
Okay, let's do it.
Clear introduces this really interesting concept, the power of compounding, but applied to habits.
Ah, so small, consistent actions over time can lead to some pretty remarkable results.
Just like a small investment accumulating significant returns over a long period.
I like that analogy. It makes it a
Yeah.
lot easier to grasp.
And Clear, he takes it even further by connecting our habits to our identity.
So like our habits are a reflection of who we believe we are.
Exactly. So by changing our habits, we can actually reshape our self-image.
Unlock new potential.
Exactly. And then there's Fogg, who's a big proponent of starting small.
Tiny habits
Yeah, his concept of tiny habits involves taking these minuscule
that are
actions.
super easy to implement.
Super easy, almost ridiculously easy.
So instead of aiming for 30 minutes of meditation right away,
You start with just 1 minute.
so it's more about eliminating that feeling of overwhelm,
Yeah.
making it effortless to begin.
And over time, that 1 minute can gradually expand into a more sustainable practice.
Both Clear and Fogg, they delve into this thing called the habit loop.
Right. This cycle of cue, craving, response, and reward.
And it's a really interesting way to understand why we do the things we do.
It's like the underlying mechanism behind our actions.
And what I find really insightful is Clear's breakdown of how to actually manipulate each stage of the loop.
You know, he provides all these tactics for making cues more obvious,
Amplifying cravings
simplifying responses.
and ensuring that rewards are truly satisfying.
It's like a practical roadmap for habit building.
I love it. Now let's switch gears again and talk about Greg McKeown and his book, Essentialism.
So, essentialism.
He presents this really compelling framework for identifying what truly matters in our lives.
And then ruthlessly eliminating everything else.
So it's about doing less, but better.
Yes.
McKeown, he uses this example of Southwest Airlines, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, great example.
So while their competitors were trying to be everything to everyone, Southwest focused on one thing.
Affordable, no-frills flights.
And that laser focus allowed them to streamline their operations
Minimize distractions.
and ultimately achieve incredible success.
And that highlights this crucial concept of trade-offs, right?
Right. Saying yes to one thing,
Inevitably means saying no to something else.
it's about making conscious choices.
That align with our top priorities.
Now, McKeown is not a fan of the glorification of busyness, which I think is something we can all relate to.
He's a strong advocate for rest.
Why?
And even escape, which sometimes we really need to do.
For clarity and inspiration.
It's like replenishing the well, so to speak.
And the thing is, right, those groundbreaking ideas, they often surface when we're not actively working.
Exactly. It might be during a walk in nature.
Or taking a long bath.
Or simply allowing ourselves to zone out for a few minutes.
It's in those moments of non-work that our subconscious minds can really process information
Make new connections.
and spark those aha moments.
It's like giving our creativity space to breathe.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed and scattered, it's okay to step back.
Decline requests.
Prioritize rest.
Sometimes stepping away from work is actually the most productive thing you can do.
Okay, so we've talked about mindful mornings and those all-important habits.
Yeah.
But let's move on to time management because, let's face it, we could all use a little more time.
Right. You've got David Allen's Getting Things Done, Michael Hyatt's Free to Focus, and Kevin Cruz's 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management. There's a lot to unpack here.
For sure.
Well, Allen, he talks about this concept of achieving a mind-like water state for, like peak productivity.
Mind like water. Okay, I'm intrigued.
He compares it to like a martial artist reacting effortlessly to an opponent's moves.
Interesting.
It's about being present, adaptable, and unburdened by mental clutter.
So basically having a clear headspace
Exactly, and this ties into his idea of capturing all tasks and ideas.
to free up mental space.
Yeah, because when we get those thoughts and to-dos out of our heads and into some kind of external system,
Whether it's a to-do list, a notepad, or a digital tool.
it frees up so much cognitive bandwidth, for focused work.
It's like decluttering your physical workspace, only you're decluttering your mind.
Precisely. A clean desk, a clear mind.
Now, Cruz, he also emphasizes the importance of having a system for capturing those random thoughts and ideas.
He even suggests keeping a notepad by your bed, just in case inspiration strikes in the middle of the night.
Makes sense. You don't want to lose those precious ideas.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific tactics. Hyatt, he's got this 3-21-0-0 email strategy. Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah, the 3-21-0.
So tell me more about that.
Well, he recommends checking email only 3 times a day, each session limited to 21 minutes.
And the goal is to have an empty inbox by the end of each check.
Exactly. It's a very structured approach to managing email overwhelm, which can be a real time suck.
I know, I struggle with that.
Huh.
Okay, what else?
There's also the Pomodoro Technique developed by Francesco Cirillo. It involves working in these focused 25-minute intervals.
With 5-minute breaks in between.
Right. And after 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break, like 15 to 30 minutes.
So it's kind of like interval training for your brain.
Yeah.
Keeps you focused and prevents mental fatigue,
Exactly. Both these techniques, they actually align with the principle of batching similar tasks.
which both Hyatt and Cruz talk about,
It's about grouping similar activities together, minimizing that constant task switching.
which can be so draining,
It really can. And by streamlining your efforts, you boost efficiency and reduce mental friction.
like an assembly line for your workday. I love it. Okay, let's move on to something that I think everyone's interested in, which is financial success. Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass at Making Money. That's such a great title.
It is, and she has a really powerful message. She challenges us to rethink our relationship with money.
So instead of viewing wealth as something we have to chase after,
She wants us to align our mindset with the concept of abundance, believing that we're worthy of financial success.
and capable of creating it.
Exactly, and she really encourages us to confront those deeply ingrained beliefs, the ones that might be holding us back financially,
So it's about shifting from a scarcity mentality
where we believe there's not enough to go around.
to an abundance mindset where possibilities are limitless.
It's a powerful shift.
But it's not enough to just think about abundance,
No.
right? We have to take action.
Definitely, that's where Grant Cardone's the 10X rule comes in.
Okay, the 10X rule, I've heard of this.
Cardone argues that most people drastically underestimate the effort required for success.
So he says we need to set ambitious goals and pursue them relentlessly.
10 times the effort for 10 times the results.
It's about moving beyond fear and embracing massive action.
Exactly, taking those bold steps, even when it feels uncomfortable. All right, let's dive into memory mastery.
Kevin Horsley,
Mm-hmm.
unlimited memory, a fascinating topic for sure.
Horsley, he challenges this whole idea that memory is some kind of fixed trait.
Like you're either born with a good memory or you're not,
Exactly. He says it's a skill,
that we can develop
just like any other skill.
through practice and the right techniques.
Precisely. And he emphasizes the importance of concentration, visualization, and making connections between ideas.
So it's not about rote memorization. It's about engaging with the information in a meaningful way.
Exactly. Now, to wrap things up, we've got Marcus Aurelius and his meditations. This is a classic.
Timeless wisdom from a Roman emperor.
Amazing.
Aurelius offers these really profound insights into Stoicism.
Okay, Stoicism.
It's a philosophy of acceptance, resilience, and focusing on what's within our control.
Which is so relevant in today's world, right?
Yeah.
With all the chaos and uncertainty.
Exactly, because Aurelius reminds us that we can't always control external events.
But we can choose how we respond to them.
He encourages us to cultivate this inner peace by detaching from things we can't influence, and instead directing our energy towards our own actions and our character.
It's about finding that sense of calm, even amidst the storm.
Wow, what a journey this has been. I mean, from ancient philosophy to modern self-help, it's incredible how all these sources come together.
It's like they're all pieces of the same puzzle, offering this unified vision for personal effectiveness.
Right. I mean, we've covered everything from morning routines and financial habits to mindset and emotional regulation.
It's like a holistic roadmap for thriving, in every aspect of life.
So let's distill all of this knowledge
Yeah.
into like 10 actionable takeaways that our listeners can actually use.
Love it. Let's turn all this wisdom into concrete steps.
Okay, so first and foremost, design a morning routine that really works for you.
Yeah.
And protect those morning hours.
Like they're gold, right?
Exactly, they're precious. Number 2, remember that willpower is a limited resource.
And it's strongest in the morning.
But the good news is that it can be strengthened.
Like a muscle,
Yeah.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Okay, number 3, embrace the power of tiny habits.
Use that habit loop to your advantage.
Make small, consistent changes that really stick.
Number 4, identify what's truly essential in your life.
And then eliminate everything that's not.
Ruthlessly. Be courageous.
Say no to requests that don't align with your priorities.
Okay, number 5, capture all your tasks and ideas
Get them out of your head.
into a system that works for you.
Achieve that mind-like water state.
Number 6, master those time management techniques.
Like the 3-2-1-1-0 email strategy or the Pomodoro Technique.
Boost your efficiency, minimize distractions.
Okay, number 7, align your mindset with abundance.
Challenge those limiting beliefs about money that may be holding you back.
Number 8, take bold action toward your goals.
Don't underestimate the effort required for extraordinary results.
Number 9, develop your memory.
Turn it into a skill.
Use visualization, association, all those cool techniques we talked about.
And finally, number 10, cultivate inner peace.
Through the principles of Stoicism. Focus on what you can control, detached from what you can't.
And choose your responses to life challenges with wisdom and composure.
So there you have it. 10 powerful principles to boost your productivity and create a life of success.
And fulfillment.
Exactly. Don't forget the fulfillment part. But remember, knowledge without action is meaningless. It's all about taking these principles and making them a part of your daily life. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final question. Which of these strategies really spoke to you? What's the one small step you can take today to start implementing it? Because remember, even the smallest actions, when done consistently, can lead to incredible results. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep striving for your best self.